Okay, welcome back to another Seahawk Boys Fearless and Brilliant. I'm going to change to the Fearless and Brilliant channel. Uh, Seahawks NFL draft YouTube video. Well, again, I'm going to, in a certain sense, claim victory because I am the only one in the Seahawks blogosphere who told you this. Not Rob Staten, not Seahawks retard Nelson, not Hawk Blogger, not Dan Veens, not Seahawks Forever. None of these people who are popular in the Seahawks blogosphere, Sammy Jarger, none of them told you what I told you, which is that quarterbacks are going to be at a premium from now on. They were at a premium last year in the first round. They are going to be at a premium last year. Every quarterback last year was probably overdrafted except for CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, who were the top prospects. So this year, the same thing happened. And I told you this was going to happen. And I told you, look, the Seahawks cannot afford to trade down, really, because they're probably going to miss out on one of the 7 top tier quarterbacks that are in this draft, guys that have the potential to be stars. And that's exactly what happened, except there's one left. There's Spencer Rattler left. And they could have traded, let's say, down to 23, taken him, picked up a third and a fourth round pick next year from the Vikings, picked up a 5th round pick this year. Could have used on a decent player there. By the way, it's a stormy and windy and wet day in Las Vegas today. But they didn't do that. They stayed, and where they should have taken Rattler at 16, they took Byron Murphy. And retard Hawk bloggers like, oh, it's so great. This is not going to make this a better football team because they probably have to move on from Jarran Reed or Draymond Jones or Jarran Reed and Draymond Jones to make room for this guy from a cap perspective. And there's not much of a chance that he's going to be better than those 2 players. There's a marginal chance he'll be as good, especially his first year. So it's not going to move the needle in terms of the Seahawks winning more football games. Oh, we're building in the trenches. Yeah, well, so what? If you don't have a quarterback that can win you the game in the last 2 minutes, which we don't, it's not going to make a difference. And that should have been their focus on investment. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at day 2, rounds 2 and 3, and we're going to take a look at a mock draft as to what might happen. I'll tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to mock the Seahawks trading up into the early 2nd round to take Spencer Rattler, which they're going to need to do, because I don't think they're going to do that. I think John Schneider's a clown. I think they don't have a clue how to win in 2024, and I don't think they're going to do anything like that. So we're not going to mock that. We're just going to try to look at who is smarter than the Seahawks and who will go up and get the last remaining first-round level talent in this draft. Last year, Will Levis went with his very first pick. I have a feeling the Bills are not going to trade out of 33. They traded back to go to 33 with the Chiefs, or 32, or wherever they're picking. Bills are the top team on the clock, I think. They're not going to trade out. They're not going to trade out. I think they're going to stick and they're going to pick, and they have somebody in mind, and I think I know who it is. So with that said, let's get on to it. Rounds 2 and 3 mock draft. We're going to try to do a realistic mock draft, not a fantasy mock draft where the Seattle Seahawks are actually smart. All right, we're back. We're going to get ready and go on this thing. By the way, I'm going through looking at some Twitter, looking at, Colin Cowherd. Cowherd basically agreed with me that the Falcons won the draft yesterday. I'm one of the few people who said that. Other people were like, "Ooh, Penix at 8." Even Rob was shocked Penix went at number 8. I'm not. That's how good he is. So it's like, it's great to be validated. Of course, he didn't validate me on the Seahawks because the Seahawks managed to make themselves completely irrelevant yesterday by basically doing nothing. Basically taking a run-of-the-middle first-round defensive tackle. Unless he's Fletcher Cox or Aaron Donald in disguise, this is not going to move the needle. It's not going to get the Seahawks closer to the Super Bowl. Only a quarterback would have done that. And the Seahawks could be the talk of the town today. They could be amongst the Falcons and the other teams like the Broncos who took risks on quarterbacks if they had taken one. It was all right there. And again, let's go back. The trade that the Vikings made from 23 to 17 with the Jaguars, the Seahawks said they had trade offers. That was on the table. That trade was on the table. And because the Jaguars took it, I'm going to assume it was the best deal they had. The Seahawks would have traded from 16 to 23. They would have gotten a 5th round pick this year, so an extra 5th round pick. And they would have had a 3rd and a 4th next year. So next year they would have had a 1st, a 2nd, 2 3rds, and 2 4ths. It's a pretty good haul. And they could have taken their quarterback of the future with Spencer Rattler, but they didn't do that. So the Jaguars did instead. And so here we are with no picks in the 2nd round. All right, let's go on and share the PFN. We're going to use the PFN mock draft database here. Where am I going? I'm going there. Mock draft database, and we're going to use their draft simulator and fill everything in. Just taking a look at this, you look at it, it filled in the 1st round. Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Marvin Harrison. That was all predictable. Joe Alt was a little bit of a surprise, but a lot of people thought yesterday the rumor was Chargers were going to go tackle. They did. They picked Alt. People thought J.C. Latham was going to be the pick. Titans settled for him. Malik Neighbors, Michael Penix Jr., best pick in the draft because he's going to be a star. Guaranteed. Rome Odunze, 2nd best pick in the draft because he's going to be a star. J.J. McCarthy, Vikings trade up, one of the worst picks. Jets trade up and don't take Brock Bowers. They take Olu Fashanu. They must really need offensive line help. Bo Nix. This is a great pick. Rob and other guys can say he's a 2nd or 3rd round talent all they want. The Broncos had a need. They needed a franchise quarterback to go forward. They found a guy who fits their system beautifully. And they got him. They might have traded up for him. I don't know. Brock Bowers to the Raiders. Great pick for them. Talise Fuaga, the offensive tackle to the Saints, fills a huge need. Liatu Latu, best pass rusher in the draft despite the medical concerns, goes to the Colts. Seahawks do nothing at 16. Again, this doesn't make you better. Oh, we're going to build in the trenches. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't have a quarterback. Does not fucking matter if you don't have a quarterback, and we don't have one. Why do we have DK Metcalf still on this roster? There's no point because there's no quarterback to get him the ball. He didn't get hardly any targets last year. He got very few targets last year. He can't make plays if he can't get him to football, and we can't get him to football. Now, people will say, well, there's 2 reasons for that. Well, I'm blaming Geno. Others are saying, well, it's not Geno. Problem is the offensive line. Well, then why didn't they take an offensive lineman at 16 or at 23? They could have had Fatanu, who went to the Steelers. Good luck. Good for you, Russ. Marius Mims went to Georgia. Jared Verse went to the Rams. That's painful. Chop Robinson went to the Dolphins. Quinyon Mitchell, best corner, went to the Eagles. They were willing to trade up for him. And then here's where the trade happened between the Jags and the Vikings. They got Dallas Turner, another guy I would have rather had than Byron Murphy. Again, the Seahawks basically play a 34. He's going to be a 34 defensive end. That's the least impactful position pretty much next to fullback. Maybe safety. Anyway, Graham Barton, Jordan Morgan, Darius Robinson goes to the Cardinals. The Cardinals destroyed this draft on day 1, and they got 4 more picks today. So good for them. Xavier Worthy, the Chiefs traded up with the Bills, got the receiver they wanted, Tyler Guyton. Cowboys traded down and got the guy they wanted. Nate Wiggins from Clemson goes to the Ravens, and then Ricky Pearsall goes to the 49ers. They are going to trade Debo, or they're going to trade Brandon Ayuk today. And then for some reason, the Panthers came up and took Xavier Leggetti. They could have had him 1 pick later. Were they afraid somebody was going to jump in over them? Yeah. But they believed in Ligeti. And the thing about Javier Ligeti or Xavier Ligeti is he played great. He had a ton of catches. Guess who threw him all those balls at South Carolina? Guy we should have taken. Spencer Rattler. So now the Bills have traded down twice. They have 3 picks. They have 33, 60, and 95. I don't see them trading out. Their needs, wide receiver, safety, edge, defensive tackle. I think they probably take Cooper DeJean, who's the guy everybody's saying is sitting there waiting. Been waiting to be taken. Was a first round pick. Some clowns like who's the fat guy with the beard, the bald fat guy with the beard? Corbin Smith had the Seahawks taking him. That would have been an even bigger disaster pick than Byron Murphy. And again, should have taken, if you're going to stick and pick, you should have taken an offensive lineman. First of all, you shouldn't have stuck and pick. You should have traded down, picked up more draft capital, and taken Spencer Rattler, but you didn't. All right, now we come into the New England Patriots. They got their quarterback, Drake May. Now they need a wide receiver. Look, there's a couple out there. I'm going to give them Keon Coleman from Florida State. Okay, the Cardinals, they got their receiver. They got their edge rusher. They still need a defensive tackle. I think they just take Johnny Newton, defensive tackle. I don't think they trade out. Now, who could trade out of this particular pick? I think the Washington Redskins could. They took Jaden Daniels, or they could stick and they could pick and they could take, let's say, I don't know, Ladd McConkey, the wide receiver. See, all these teams are looking for receivers and to add to their quarterbacks they already took. Now the Chargers need a receiver. I don't see them trading out of this pick, especially not with the Los Angeles or Las Vegas Raiders. I think probably this is where Adonai Mitchell falls to them. Now they've got an offensive tackle and a wide receiver to go with Justin Herbert. Okay, so now I think we're getting into the juicy territory where we can see a trade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to propose a trade between the Tennessee Titans, who only have 2 picks, 1 pick today. They only had 1 pick yesterday. They probably won a third. I'm going to propose a trade between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Tennessee Titans. And I am going to give them 44 and 112, which is actually a 4th round pick for 38, but it gives the Titans an extra pick. Let's see if they accept it. They accept it. And guess what the Raiders do? They didn't get their quarterback. They got maybe the best pass catcher, offensive talent in this draft in Brock Bowers in the 1st round. Now they're going to slide over. They're going to take the guy with the 1st round. 104, rated 104. What a fucking joke these guys are. These evaluators. Screw that. Spencer Rattler goes to the Las Vegas Raiders, and throwing to guys like Brock Bowers and Devontae Adams has a chance to become a star right away. So the Seahawks, once again, swing and miss out. Now the Panthers. Well, Panthers are interesting because they traded up to get Xavier Ligeti. Their needs were wide receiver, center, edge, blah, blah, blah. Look, Jackson Powers-Johnson, a lot of people thought he was a 1st-round pick. If they need a center, he's the guy they're going to take. Boomba. Now we have the Washington Redskins. Jaden Daniels, Ladd McConkey. Do they go offense? Do they go defense? They still haven't taken an offensive tackle. Kingsley Sumiatia is there. I say, look, if you're going to draft a quarterback, you got to build around him. Offense, offense, offense. Defense can wait. And let's face it, the talent in this draft is offense. It's on the offensive side of the ball, and offense wins Super Bowls in 2024. Not defense and not running game. So they get Jaden Daniels, Ladd McConkey, and Kingsley Sumiatia. Damn good draft for them. Okay, the Green Bay Packers, they took the offensive tackle they needed, Jordan Morgan in the 1st round. They also have needs at linebacker, offensive guard. They could go with an offensive guard here, but they've got another pick coming up. They can get a linebacker later. So I'm going to give them Christian Haynes. It's a tight fit. It's a good fit. There they go. Now, The Houston Texans. The Houston Texans did not get a pick in the first round, but they have 3 here on day 2. Their biggest needs are defensive tackle, cornerback, offensive tackle, linebacker. I don't know their biggest needs really, but let's give them Kool-Aid McKinstry, the cornerback. Let's bring him in here and give him that. Now the Atlanta Falcons, they shocked everybody and took Michael Penix Jr. Everybody thought they were going to take one of the edges. They didn't. They've made their big splash. I think they moved to the next available edge guy, Adisa Isaac. They take him. Ba-boom. The Tennessee Titans picked up an extra pick on day 3 for their trade down to 44. They needed an offensive tackle. They ended up with one in the first round in J.C. Latham. They also could be looking at corner, linebacker, wide receiver. I think they go wide receiver because I think they need somebody with speed to score touchdowns and to help develop Will Levis. So I'm going to give them Jalen Polk from the University of Washington. Now come the Saints. They just missed out on a quarterback. Now they're going to pivot to their next important position. Zach Frazier, who can be either an offensive center or an offensive guard. They'll go take him. Now we go to the Indianapolis Colts. They got their edge guy, Laiatu Latu. They also need wide receivers, corners, edges. Again, there's a lot of corners available, but come on, corner is quickly becoming, very quickly becoming a second round position like running back. I don't rate the corners in this draft. I'm not going to reach and give them a corner or a safety here. I'm going to come back. They went defense in the first round. I'm going to come back and say that they go offense. Do they go tackle? What do they do? They could go wide receiver with Troy Franklin, an outside guy, or they could go to an inside guy. I want to take a look at the tight ends. Ben Sinnott is now rated ahead of Jatavian Sanders. I'm going to give him to the Colts. That's just a wild ass guess. Probably they could take a wide receiver. Also, any of these picks might be traded for Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. New York Giants, they needed a wide receiver. They got him, Malik Neighbors, in the first round. They also have needs at corner and running back and offensive tackle. Let's just give him TJ Tampa, give him a corner. Jacksonville Jaguars, they also needed a cornerback, but they got Brian Thomas, the wide receiver they wanted. Now they come back and flip it back to the next corner available. Let's just go with Max Melton. Cincinnati Bengals kicked ass, got a Marius Mims, a big tackle, a big offensive tackle. Now they're looking at defensive tackle. Rook or Horoho goes to the Bengals. They get bigger and tougher on both sides of the ball. Now, what they're doing makes sense for them. They're building in the trenches on both sides of the ball. The people who say the Seahawks should be doing that don't understand the difference between the Bengals and the Seahawks. The difference is Joe Burrow. The difference is you can win a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow. You will not win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith or Sam Howell. That's why it makes sense for the Bengals to do what they're doing. Now we come back to the Philadelphia Eagles. What do they need? Corners, linebackers, safeties. They went out and they got Quinyon Mitchell, the best corner in the draft. Now they have their choice, the pick of the litter at linebacker. They're going to take Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M as their linebacker. The Steelers also kicked ass, got Troy Fautanu, the offensive tackle, in the first round. Could be looking at a center, could be looking at a corner, could be looking at a wide receiver. Obviously, the obvious pick would be like Cooper Beebe, the inside offensive lineman for them, but they already took an offensive lineman. They probably could use another guy to catch some balls on the outside. Let's give them Tony Franklin, the wide receiver from Oregon. The Rams came in, they sat, they stuck, they sticked, they picked, they got the edge they needed. Now they're looking for a corner. Ennis Rakestraw goes there. The Eagles are back on the clock, still looking for a safety. Let's give them Tyler Nubin. Now the Cleveland Browns make their first pick in the draft. They are looking for a defensive tackle. I think they just take the Ohio guy, Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State. The Dolphins surprised a lot of people by going edge in the first round because they needed help on the offensive line. They needed to get tougher. They're going to go ahead and do that with Cooper Beebe in the second round. The The Cowboys got Tyler Guyton in the first round, or Tyler Guyton, their offensive tackle, the guy they were targeting. Now I think they could use, well, they're saying center, linebacker, running back, defensive tackle. Another thing they could use is they could use a guy to rush the passer to go with Micah Parsons. I think that they do that here. I think they're going to reach a little bit, but they're going to take Marshawn Nealon from Western Michigan, or they're going to take some edge. Tampa Bay surprise people with Graham Barton in the first round. Let's help Baker Mayfield, but Chris Braswell comes back and is the pick in the second round. Now the Packers. Well, Packers have taken Jordan Morgan, Christian Haynes, two guys on the offense. It's time to go defense. Linebacker is a big problem. I think they go Peyton Wilson because of his outstanding upside potential. We come back to the Texans. The Texans, they needed defensive tackle, cornerback. They went corner in the first round. I think this is where they can get a little bit crazy and they can go down and they can take a big risk on a big man. It fits. He's a local guy. They probably think they can work with him. T'Vondre Sweat from Texas is the pick for the Houston Texans. Now we're back to the Bills, their second pick. They took a safety with the first pick. They still need wide receivers. They still need other players. As you look at the list of available wide receivers, Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky, Roman Wilson from Michigan is there. There are some guys here that could definitely fill some needs for them. Where's the other? There's one other wide receiver I like. Let's go Malachi Corley because he's the highest rated receiver. Okay, the Detroit Lions are on the clock. They need an edge guy. They need somebody to pressure the quarterback to go with Aiden Hutchinson. He is not an edge guy because the edge guys are pretty much picked clean. I think they take a big risk. I think they go with Braden Fisk of Florida State, an inside-outside guy to help their pass rush. Now we come to the Ravens. They took a corner in the first round. They needed a wide receiver. They needed an offensive guard. Where's the value here? Looking at the wide receivers, let's just give them Roman Wilson from Michigan and say, good enough. The San Francisco 49ers took a wide receiver in the first round. They're not going to do that in the second round. They need offensive tackles. Patrick Paul's a good fit. Let's give him to the San Francisco 49ers. The Kansas City Chiefs, wide receiver in round one. They have offensive tackle, linebacker, defensive tackle, corner listed. I don't think the Chiefs mess with that. There is a talented inside defensive player named Chris Jenkins from Michigan, who I think goes to the last pick in the second round, just like Frank Clark did about 7 or 8 years ago. Okay, now we move into round 3, and we're with the Panthers. What are the Panthers going to do? They got a wide receiver, they got a center, they went offense. There are no running backs yet that have been drafted. Let's give them the top running back in the draft, Troy Benson, to help their running game. Now comes the Arizona Cardinals, offense, defense, time to go back offense. Yeah, running back is something they could use because all they have is that, what is this? Jonathan Cooper? He's mediocre. Go get another running back. Get Jonathan Brooks. Washington Redskins, offense. Time to think defense. I think they take Braylon Trice, the edge from the University of Washington, to go attack the quarterback and replace Chris, what's his name? The guy they traded away. Used to be the second overall pick. Cross, I don't know. Charles Cross, whatever his name was. No, that's the Seahawks pick. Okay, so now we're going on to the New England Patriots. They've gone offense. Their biggest needs are offense and offense. Who's the best player left in the draft? They could use a corner. They could use a safety. What are they going to do here? I think that they probably just go ahead and take the best corner, Mike Sainristil. Okay, Chargers. Chargers have gone offense. Now they're probably looking defense. We slide over to the defensive side of the ball. And it still says they need a center. What do we do? They don't need a linebacker. They got a wide receiver. They could use a corner. Okay, let's give him Kayleen. Let's not do that. Let's take a linebacker. Let's take Junior Colson from Michigan because that's a guy Harbaugh knows. All right, New York Giants. Biggest needs: wide receiver, cornerback, running back, offensive tackle. They've already gotten a wide receiver and a corner. This is a time they might take a tackle. Roger Rosengarten, a great bargain at number 70, goes to the Giants. At number 71, the Cardinals are back on the clock again. They took a running back, they took an edge, they took a defensive tackle, they took a wide receiver. Now, what do they do? Well, I think they're kind of looking at best athlete available in this particular case. They didn't take anybody on the offensive line yet. So let's go offensive line. Let's go Christian Mahogany from Boston College. New York Jets offensive line in the first round. They need a guy who can score touchdowns. In the second round, Jalen McMillan, the wide receiver from Washington, goes to the Jets at 72. Cowboys offensive tackle, defensive edge rusher. They have needs at other positions. Cedric Gray is an excellent linebacker. I know the Steelers and the Eagles really liked him. So they'll give them Cedric Gray to fill in their linebacker spot. Now, the Atlanta Falcons, the Falcons who did not fail, they took Michael Penix and Idisa Isaac, the edge at Penn State. There's a lot of directions that they could go right here. They have a pretty good running game already. They took an edge. In the second round, they also have needs at corner. Let's just give him the next corner up. Let's give him Kamari Lassiter from Georgia. He's a local guy. The Chicago Bears have killed this draft so far. Caleb Williams, the obvious choice at number 1, although I would have taken Michael Penix, but that's me. He's a Cam Newton type talent. Rome Odunze, and now they have a chance to finally take a defensive player. Edge is a need. We'll give him Brandon Dorlus from Oregon. The Broncos, Bo Nix, good call, good job. They're also looking for defensive tackles. There aren't a ton of them available here. They don't have much of a running game. They don't have a great offensive line. I'm gonna reach a little bit and go with Blake Corum, the running back from Michigan, goes off the board to help Bo Nix. Now the Raiders, they dropped back to 77. They went Brock Bowers, Spencer Rattler. They also have needs at other positions like corner and defensive tackle. Gosh, the defensive tackles are kind of not available. It just depends on who you think is a third round pick. I don't rate any safeties as a third round pick. Kalian Carson, Will Shipley. They went offense. I want to go defense, but the talent right now that's left is offense. So let's give them a young outside wide receiver, Devontae Walker. The Redskins are back on the clock. Jaden Daniels, Lad McConkey, Kingsley Sumiatra, Braylon Trice. They also need a safety or a corner. Let's just give them the next guy up. Let's give them Kalian Carson, the cornerback. Falcons again with another pick. They've gone offense, defense, defense. Let's go back on offense. Let's look for a tight end, Jatavian Sanders. Better yet, let's go Cedric Van Pran. We'll give him a center to fill that particular need. Probably broke the hearts of the Bengals, who would love to have another offensive lineman, but I think they're going to pivot. And what are they want offensive line, defensive line. They also have a need for a wide receiver. Gosh, I don't see anybody really that excites me at wide receiver, except there is they already have they already have pretty good kick returners. Wow. If I look at offense and wide receiver, there's just not a lot left except maybe Johnny Wilson from Florida State. So we could go there. Let's go there. Seahawks are up. I think they're going to luck out here a little bit. There are two guys I really love here. Zach Zinter, who's now fallen into the 4th round in terms of evaluations, and Matt Gonsalves, who is picked at 148. I think they went defensive line in the first round. They need to go offensive line here. Both these guys are really, really highly rated players. The reason I like Gonsalves over somebody like Amadaji from Yale is because He's got versatility. There's also Blake Fisher from Notre Dame. Do we need a tackle? Not necessarily. Do we need a guard? Well, yeah. Could we have used a center? I just like Zach Zinter. I'm going to jump up here and take Zach Zinter because we need an inside offensive lineman, period. Okay, that brings us back to the Colts. They got an edge, they got a tight end. They kind of have the luxury to go with whatever is the best player on their board. There's a couple guys that are safeties. Safety's a need. Let's give him his Cameron Kitchens guy and put him there. The LA Rams, edge, corner, the first two picks. They also need linebackers. Let's give him Trevin Wallace, the linebacker from Kentucky. They're starting to build something there. Steelers have gone offense with their first two picks. Probably time to address the defense. They need corners. They need safeties. Let's go with Javon Bullard from Georgia. The Cleveland Browns. They got Michael Hall Jr. in the second. They're now up in the third. There's a lot of guys that I like here. Their needs are defensive tackle and offensive tackle. Let's go back to the offensive tackle picks and take Kieran Amadou from Yale and just give it to him. Okay, last pick now in the second day for the Texans. They've gone defense. I think now they are going to reach a little bit, but they're going to go offense. We're going to slide over to the tight ends. They're going to go Jatavian Sanders. Jatavian Sanders was a second round pick on most boards until the last week in the draft. And he gets up there at 86 for the Houston Texans, another target. Dallas Cowboys now at 87. Offense, defense. Maybe time to go back to the offensive side of the ball. They could use a running back. So let's give them a running back. Okay. Green Bay Packers, offensive tackle, offensive guard, took a risk on Peyton Wilson in the second round. Also have needs at safety. Let's go with Cole Bishop, the safety there with that pick. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got a center to protect Baker Mayfield. They got an edge to rush the passer. Are there any wide receivers really left at this point that people are going to get excited about? Don't think so. So I think we will just go with the most obvious pick, which is the highest rated guy, Chris Abrams-Draine from Missouri. Now we come to the Cardinals, who have done pretty well. They got a wide receiver, they got an edge, they got a tackle, they got a running back, they got an offensive guard. This is their last pick of the day. Linebacker is not listed as a need. Corner is listed as a need. Who am I out of these guys? Who do I like? Who am I taking? I'm just going to take Mason Smith. I'm going to say we'll get two defensive tackles. Green Bay Packers on the clock again. Offense, linebacker, safety. Time to maybe go back on the offensive side of the ball again. But no, we're going to take two linebackers. We're going to go with Jeremiah Trotter because he's a value there. Nope, we're not. We're going to go with a there's just no wide receivers. Well, there is one that I like because he's also a kick returner. Brendan Rice from USC goes to them as a kick returner. Now we get back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers again. Center, edge, corner. Time to go back on the offensive side of the ball. Who's available on the offensive side of the ball? They've all been taken. Not a lot to choose from there. Then in that case, I think we look to Cade Stover, the tight end from Ohio State. Now, the Ravens, they've done corner. They've got a wide receiver. They haven't taken a lineman. It is not like them to not take an offensive or defensive lineman. So how about we give them Dwayne Carter, the defensive tackle from Duke. The 49ers probably have some other picks because they probably traded one of their two troubled wide receivers. They went wide receiver. They went offensive tackle. They're in a position to just go best player available. That's probably Andrew Phillips from Kentucky. The Bills have gone wide receiver. They've gone safety. They could use an edge. I don't really see anybody who's really exciting in this range, except maybe Austin Booker. So we'll move them over to the Bills. Now the Jaguars have dropped down. They've got a wide receiver. They've got a corner. Their top needs are wide receiver, corner, defensive tackle. Oh, okay, defensive tackle. Well, let's go over to the defense and let's look at the defensive tackles. Let's take Leonard Taylor from Florida. All right, Bengals back on the board. Offensive tackle, defensive tackle, wide receiver. Probably would like to go with a skill guy here, but again, I think they're looking for a corner. DJ James goes to them. The Steelers, offense. Javon Ballard, safety for the defense. Jeremiah Trotter, again, kind of a legacy, not really a legacy pick, a Pennsylvania legacy pick, but Jeremiah Trotter, the linebacker, goes to them. Now we're on with the Raiders. They've gone edge, corner, linebacker. Probably time to take an offensive player. I don't know who's out there that's really very exciting. Let's look at. They're always looking. No, they're going to take Malik Mustafa, one of the better safeties in this draft. Redskins are on the board. Offense, defense. What do we do? Who's the top player on our board? But we have to play. This is the third round. So we want to take a guy at a value position. The question is, what's the value position? Well, inside, defense, offense. Let's double down on our offensive line. Let's take the next best guy up. Dominic Pooney from Kansas goes to the Redskins, and that finishes our 2-round day 2 mock draft. Cooper DeJean is the first pick. Keon Coleman. The Raiders, obviously there'll be other trades, but the Raiders come up and get Spencer Rattler at 38, trading with the Tennessee Titans, who take Jalen Polk. The Seattle Seahawks, because they didn't take an offensive lineman yesterday, are kind of forced to take an offensive lineman in the 3rd round. Today at 81, they get Zach Zinner. I think they'd get very lucky if they got Zach Zinner in that spot. I don't see them doing anything else. There's your draft, your mock draft. Let's just. How will this come out compared to what really happens? Not very well. The only thing I'm really certain of is Spencer Rattler is there. Somebody's going to trade up. Either the Saints or the Raiders, who are both smarter than the Seahawks, are going to trade up, and they're going to take Spencer Rattler because that's what they do. They're smarter than us. This is why Seahawks fans can't have nice things. Okay, that's my prediction. It's wild. It's not really very scientific. The only thing I'm really sure of is somebody trades up to go get Spencer Rattler in the early part of the 2nd round. I think before the Raiders are on the clock at 44. And it will suck to watch my last hope for the Seahawks to get a decent quarterback with a franchise future. Sorry, that's what I think is going to happen. I would dearly love it if John Schneider proved that I'm wrong and he's smarter than me by trading next year's 1st round pick and maybe something else to get in there and get Spencer Rattler before anybody else can take him. That would be great. If maybe he had a secret plan all along to do that, and we still retained our 8 pick at 81 to get an offensive lineman. My day would brighten. My next post, my next video would be completely different, and I would say the Seahawks were smart. They play the draft smart. But I don't think that's going to happen because I think, like they always do, the Seahawks are going to sit on their hands. See you tomorrow.